20th century in the United States of America, hundreds and hundreds of teenage boys and girls are becoming homosexuals every year. It's fantastic, it's unbelievable, and it's terrible, but it's true.
The Society for Human Rights of 1924 impacted Chicago and its inhabitants by empowering many people to become activists, creating different groups that helped acceptance of this movement to grow, and creating a more diverse society. Prior to 1924, the people of the LGBT community were discriminated against and poorly treated. They were often exposed to prejudice acts by people, the church, and the government due to homosexuality being seen as a moral dilemma and a mental instability. In spite of this, few people took on the risks that activism entailed.
In fact, he seemed like a real nice guy. What Jimmy didn't know was that Ralph was sick, a sickness that was not visible like smallpox, but no less dangerous and contagious, a sickness of the mind. You see, Ralph was a homosexual, a person who demands an intimate relationship with members of their own sex.
There were movements happening around the globe, especially in Germany, where the German homosexual movement was developing during the First World War. A German immigrant named Henry Joseph Dittmar, formerly known as Henry Gerber, moved to the United States along with his family due to the city's large German population at the time. His sexual orientation and beliefs placed him in a mental institute, which brought him to the realization that he now lived in an environment that did not have as much liberal freedom as his home country. After being released out of the mental institute, he enlisted in the United States Army as a translator for the Americans in Germany. While in war, he was exposed to the urbanization and gay subcultures that were emerging. The war influenced him to become an activist and create movements in America to protect the rights of gays and lesbians, especially where he resided in Chicago.
Gerber and some friends worked together to form an organization that would set the foundation for an accepting society. On December 10, 1924, the organization was formed. It was named the Society for Human Rights and became a non-profit corporation. It became the first established organization that advocated and protected the rights of gays and lesbians in Illinois.
Gerber had many aspirations for the society, which including exposing the heterosexual community to the society and its plan to advocate for the betterment of the treatment towards the gay and lesbian populace. The plan of the corporation included various aspects: educating citizens about the homosexual population and about their relationship to society. They spread their cause through publishing a newsletter called Friendship and Freedom, which would keep a form of open discussion in both heterosexual and homosexual communities. It would also teach self-discipline that would help homosexuals gain the credence and assistance of legal authorities and legislators in order to combat the issues they faced on a daily basis.
At the time, the Society of Human Rights had minimal impact due to the fact that the society itself collapsed shortly after its creation. The society's ultimate demise was when its vice president was denounced to the police by his wife when she found him having an affair with a man. The police later arrested prominent members of the corporation and Gerber himself, completely deteriorating the society as a whole.
After the fall of the Society of Human Rights, it would take more than 30 years until there were any real institutions that supported the gay movements in Chicago. During those years, many other activists tried to establish groups based on the ideology of the society, but these groups failed to become legally established organizations. Nonetheless, they kept on being persistent and pushed towards legalization due to the fact that the Society of Human Rights was legally recognized in the eyes of the state of Illinois. During this period, the concept of living an openly gay or lesbian life was slowly encouraged throughout society, which made the homosexual communities become gradually more comfortable with living an open life. This concept of acceptance increased the sentiment that being homosexual was acceptable.
Activism was not only acted upon through individuals, but it also required places where people could be accepted. In Chicago, many clubs existed that were focused on helping the gay and lesbian community come out and be more open about their sexuality. Municipal authorities saw that the gay population kept growing, so they employed campaigns in an attempt to diminish gays and lesbians, which led to raids repeatedly occurring in clubs. These raids empowered people to continue the fight towards equality.
Much like the Society for Human Rights, other groups were created in order to secure the social and political acceptance of gays and lesbians. The Chicago chapter of the Madison Society engaged in few overtly political activities and functioned primarily as a social group. In 1964, Robert Basker and attorney Per Hart, alongside with some LGBT members, reconstituted the organization as a more militant group in response to escalating police harassment at gay bars. The new organization, now named the Managing Midwest, monitored the use of police force, or Red Squads, against gay bars, published monthly politically conscious newsletters, and by 1968 succeeded in securing support in defending gays arrested by the police. The 1969 Stonewall riots in New York inspired many gay and lesbian movements to become more organized politically and publicly. Among these organizations was the Gay Liberation Front, formed by a student from the University of Chicago. This group worked with the Managing Midwest and the Women's Caucus along the homosexual community and were able to gather the first gay parade in 1970, which is still an ongoing event today.
As Chicago's multiplying population of gays and lesbians became more visible during the late 60s, more homosexual neighborhoods flourished, therefore making the near north side and near south side of Chicago a safe haven for homophiles. This served as a catalyst in the creation of a new cultural environment in Old Town, Hyde Park, and Lakeview neighborhoods. Illinois became the first in the nation to repeal sodomy laws, giving the homosexual community a big victory as homosexuals could now display public affection without being considered a crime.
All these sparking new influences of gay and lesbian support throughout the years led other places to also let the word out about the LGBT community and bring both hetero and homosexual people in unity. A known place to do this was established in January 1981 and was located in Chicago at 6500 North Clark Street. This place of gay and lesbian influence was named the Midwest Gay and Lesbian Archive and Library. A few months later, it was formally renamed after the two very known supporters in the fight for the LGBT rights in Chicago. These people were Henry Gerber and Pearl Emhart. Furthermore, the Midwest Gay and Lesbian Archive was now called the Gerber Pearl Emhart Library and was the pinnacle of information on everything about the LGBT community and its history in Chicago at the time. This was very important as the library began to suppress homophobia within the Chicago community during 1981. It later on becomes something greater by influencing the people of today. The library does this by having other community groups have hostings in the library, having activities like board games or video games, and many other things that generally bring people together, disregarding the people's sexuality. The library, in a sense, was impacted by past gay and lesbian events, which caused the library to influence future generations.
As more generations had come and gone, acceptance began to thrive and become a norm in America. With this new wave of acceptance, many opportunities arose for the LGBT communities in Illinois and all over the nation to be able to live a life without oppression. Hate crime laws were established in 1990 and served to protect against discrimination over one's race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or gender identity. In Illinois, these laws were enhanced on July 20, 2015 by Governor Bruce Rauner. The results would further protect the rights of LGBT people in Illinois. This was also the first time there was any specific mention of crimes against members of the trans community and their rights against those crimes. Another important development in Illinois LGBT communities was the statewide legalization of same-sex marriage, which took effect on June 1, 2014, and was signed by Governor Pat Quinn. This allowed for all same-sex marriages to be legally recognized in Illinois.
The next, and consequently one of the most important milestones, happened on June 26, 2015, when same-sex marriage was legalized all over the United States of America. Not only was this a paramount victory in the LGBT community, it was also a major victory for civil development in this country. It exemplifies how major changes in a society can be made reality through work and dedication, and how an organization such as the Society of Human Rights could be so momentous to such change.
The Society for Human Rights influenced great change in Chicago and its people by empowering many to become activists, creating different groups that helped acceptance of this movement grow, and creating a more diverse society.